Hello there everyone, welcome to another World of Tanks console video with me, Womblewood. And we've got something a little bit different in that we are featuring some Cold War gameplay, and we are also going to talk about Cold War in this video. We are in the Type 69-2 on Berlin. We have a pretty good game, it's a pretty tense finish. It's just something for you to watch in the background as I talk about a few things Cold War Era 1 related. Now, when I stopped playing World of Tanks back in 2018 during my first stint, Cold War was not a mode that was actually available, didn't actually exist, and when I came back obviously in 2023, Cold War was there. However, I had no real interest in playing it because I am very much a World War II player, and I'm a very much a World War II tank fan as well. I like my Tigers, I like my Tiger 2s, my Cromwells, my Shermans, my T-34-85s, my IS-2s, anything that actually was real, featured and fought in World War II. They tend to be the tanks that I'm most interested in. It's probably the reason why I started playing the game as well. However, when I started live streaming World of Tanks back in 2023, a few people within the chat were like, you know, you should give Cold War a go, have a little bit of a shot at it. It's really good fun. However, not my experience, but what I had seen about Cold War up till that point is that it was much faster than World War II, and to me, kind of resembled World of Tanks Call of Duty, and that wasn't just anything that really appealed to me. I liked the fact that World of Tanks was a bit more tactical, it was a bit more knowledge based, you know, it was about using your armour properly, it was about using your tank's attributes properly, about knowing where to go on the map, about knowing the reloads of other tanks. So it was a very knowledge based, slightly more slower paced kind of shooter game, and that's kind of what the appeal of the game was to me when I started playing it. Other than the fact it featured tanks, who doesn't like tanks? However, as I played a few sessions of Cold War Era 1, I thoroughly enjoyed myself, I really did. It was a little bit different, I kind of liked the slightly faster pace about it. I liked the fact that I was learning stuff again as well. However, I had to have a wee sit down and think about it and goes, why am I enjoying like Era 1 so much? So I had a wee think about it, I sat down, and I'm going to give you my 3 reasons as to why I think Era 1 Cold War is probably the funnest way to play World of Tanks at the moment. So the first reason, and this probably won't surprise anyone, is that there is no artillery in Era 1. There's also no anti-tank guided missiles, which you obviously get in Era 2 and Era 3. Now, I've played very, very few games in Era 2 and Era 3, so I don't really know what it's like to go up against anti-tank guided missiles, but I do have a strong suspicion that I probably hate them just as much as I hate artillery. World War II for me is ruined to a large extent. A lot of games are ruined by artillery. You're never going to change my mind on it. I know people think differently, but I literally had 2 days last week where I stopped playing the game purely because I was getting hit by artillery so much. Playing heavy tanks, and there was just nothing I could do. I was losing 2/3 of my health to something that I could do absolutely nothing about. I mean, I could just hide behind a rock or a mound and do absolutely nothing, and then the moment I moved, that blooming little annoying buzzer that tells you that artillery's targeting you would go off. And it just became an incredibly frustrating experience. First thing I do in World War II, when we load into games, I look up at the bar. If there's no artillery, a smile's on my face. If there is artillery, I'm wishing with all my might I will get to kill that scumbag before the end of the game. And I'm not calling the person a scumbag, I'm just calling the artillery a scumbag. So, Cold War, you just don't have that fear. You can play 15 games of Cold War and you're never going to have to get an arty shell in the face at any point. And also you don't have to get an anti-tank guided missile in the face either. So that is like literally probably 50% of the reason why I enjoy Cold War. It's just the non-artillery factor. Reason number 2, and this one's going to encompass a few things to be honest with you, is that there is no real armour in Era 1. So you're not getting spammed by premium rounds all the time. I don't even run premium rounds in Cold War. I do take a few in World War II just for those horrible situations where I might need them. But in Cold War, you have enough pen, even on a bottom of Era 1 tank with the standard gun, to easily contest the armour of any other tank. Now there is a few tanks in the game that have got some decent armour, like the T95E3's got good turret armour, the There'll be a few other ones out there. I'm not hugely experienced with all the tanks, but I've never felt like I've had a situation in Cold War, whether I'm playing a bottom of Era 1 tank, where it's like maybe using like, let's just say like a T-44, which is in both World War II and Cold War. Like if you're in a T-44, fully upgraded, and you come up across basically a tier 10 heavy, yeah, good luck. Like the imbalance, you can do very, very little about them. I mean, you might pen them with a premium round if you can hit one of their weak spots, but you know, they're penning you every single time. You just don't really have that imbalance of tanks between the bottom of Era 1 and the top of Era 1 like you do basically from like a tier 8 to a tier 10. Plus, the stock tanks in Era 1 are actually pretty good. You know, the difference between a stock tank and a fully upgraded tank is not that huge, to be honest with you. Slightly better gun handling, maybe slightly better mobility, but overall, the stock tank actually feels pretty good fun to play, so you don't have those horrible stock grinds in Era 1 either, like you do in, let's say, a tier 7, a tier 8 or a tier 9 in World War II, where the stock tanks are just horrible at times. Absolutely horrible. In Era 1, that kind of horrible stock grind is not really a thing. Plus, to basically fully upgrade the start, or you know, from the very bottom of Era 1 to a fully upgraded top of Era 1 tank is what, 70,000 XP or something? Like you can get there very, very quickly, can't you? You know, 70,000 XP is usually what you have to do to get the top gun on a tier 7 tank, you know. So even if the tank is not that good stock, it's stock for such a short period of time, and it's not long until you've got to the top of the Era 1 tree. So I'll classify all that as one reason, but yeah, there's not that much armour, the stock grinds are not bad at all, and there's not anywhere near the imbalance between like a bottom of Era 1 tank and a top of Era 1 tank like there is between a tier 8 and a tier 10. So that's just a lot more fun. It just means that everything tends to be a lot more even and fun, and you're removing a lot of the bad elements of the game, just like removing artillery. I'll definitely be endearing myself to any arty players in the future with this video, that is for sure. Reason number 3, and you can't really see it in this replay here as we're coming to the end of this battle. We've just finished off the Tyran. It's an FV 4005 versus 2. He finishes off my teammate, but we know he's fired, and we can take our time and get the kill. Pretty decent game for us, 5,700 damage, 6 kills. Pretty tense victory there in the end, nice to have. But the third reason is that there is no invisible tanks in Era 1. So you still have the spotting mechanic, so if you spot a tank, it still appears on your minimap. But if that tank happens to not be spotted, but you've got a line of sight to them, then you can see them. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than being hit by an invisible tank that's 200 metres away from you, but you can't see them because of some made up concealment numbers. So concealment and spotted is still a thing in Cold War, but it's nowhere near as impactful as it is in World War II. No invisible tanks, that is a good thing. Now that's not to say there's not a few things that aren't annoying in Cold War. FV 4005s, you can take 2/3 of your hit points in one shot, are definitely very annoying, and there tends to be at least 2 of them in every single game, sometimes 5, but you know, once they're fired, they've got a 20-second reload, and they're also made of paper, so they tend to be very easy to destroy as well. But yeah, I think I'm 3 games in a row getting smacked by an FE 4005, so yeah, I was getting quite annoyed by that point. But the positives, I would say, outweigh the negatives. No invisible tanks, no artillery, and much less of an imbalance between the bottom of an era and the top of an era compared to, say, tier 8 and tier 10. And that's why I think this is probably the funnest way to play World of Tanks at the moment. It's not to say I'm not going to still predominantly play World War II, but I'm definitely going to be playing a little bit more Cold War going forward. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.